Committee on Youth Policy. The Nigerian Civil Authority suspends Maltese airline permit. Plus, Queen Camilla visits King Charles in hospital. Hello and a warm welcome to NEWSLIVE here on Viewer Television. My name is Philip Sliven. The federal government has inaugurated a 38-member steering committee for the review of National Youth Policy 2019-2023. The Minister of Youth Development, Dr. Jamila Bayo Ibrahim, who inaugurated the committee via a virtual meeting, said the policy served as a national framework for youth development. This is contained in a statement by Mrs. Mariam Yusuf, Head Press Unit of the Ministry in Abuja. Now, Bayo Ibrahim said the policy will guide the operations of the ministry while embodying the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu's administration for the youth. According to her, the ministry is committed towards engaging stakeholders in the youth sector across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria as the review approach will be inclusive and extensive. She revealed that the committee's mandate includes the development of a policy that broadly addresses youth priorities in key areas such as education, employment, health, and civil engagement. President Bola Tinubu's foreign investment drive is yielding the desired result as India said it has signed $7 billion investment for Nigeria. This is from the promised $14 billion investment pledge reached with Nigeria at the last G20 summit. Recall that President Tinubu was at G20 September 2023 summit hosted by India, where the Indian government promised the investment. An Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Gang Adharan, disclosed the signing at this country's 75th Republic Day celebration. The envoy also informed not less than 150 Indian companies are operating in Nigeria. He said the companies have in a combined investment of $27 billion, stressing that the India and Nigeria enjoy a historical relations. Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, said the trade volume between both countries was in the region of $20 billion in the last 2 years. The Supreme Court has affirmed the conviction of the immediate past Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, Alex Oko, and he's sentenced to 1 month imprisonment for contempt of court. Oko, who was appointed BPE's Director General in 2017, was sacked earlier this month by President Bola Tinubu. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court, in a unanimous judgment on Friday, held that there was sufficient evidence to prove that the BPE and Oko flouted the order of the Supreme Court restraining them from selling the aluminium smelter company of Nigeria, Alscon Limited, to any other person or group except the BFI Group Corporation that won the first bid advertised in 2004. Recall that in 2004, the BPE advertised 4 expressions of interest from interested bidders for the privatization of the Alscon. At the end of the exercise, BFI Group Corporation was adjudged and preferred bidder, which the BPE communicated to it via a letter dated June 17, 2006. The federal government has commenced allocation of affordable houses to Nigerians, and official has confirmed the Federal Controller of Housing in charge of Adamawa, Martin Gyado, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen in Yola. Gyado said President Bola Tinubu has improved the National Housing Program and introduced renewed hope cities and estates. According to him, the correspondence of Adamawa has already reached Governor Umar Fintri and is awaiting his approval. He disclosed that currently allocations of those houses that were built under the previous administration have reduced housing deficit in the country. Lagos State government has started electronic registration of land titles in the state with the launching of a Land Administration Portal, EGIS. The portal eliminates all forms of manual registration, reduces physical presence of applicants at Lands Bureau Office, allows Lagosians to register their lands from the comfort of their homes, pay all necessary fees online, obtain their title documents, and apply for a certificate of occupancy, among other registration. At the launching ceremony held at the Land Bureau Office, Aleosa, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu commended the team of the Land Bureau and Physical Planning for developing the portal. He said the digital registration was part of plans to make Lagos a 21st century, adding that it will ease business operations in the state as Lagosians will no longer need to come to the Ministry of Land to process their land documents. The governor urged Lagosians to key into the new system by making use of the portal. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has donated 27 trucks of relief materials to 8 local government areas of rivers affected by flooding in 2023. The Rivers State representative on the NDDC board, Chief Tony Okocha, presented materials to the chairman of the affected local government areas on behalf of the board in Port Harcourt. Okocha said each truck contained 47 different items which were meant to cushion the effect of the flood on the victims. The relief materials include bags of rice, beans, noodles, milk, tomatoes, sugar, salt, vegetable oil, Lipton tea, bottled water, and others. Okocha disclosed that distribution of the materials was one of the projects of the state NDDC and assured that the commission will be responsive to the people of the region. Now we'll be going on a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at the Nigerian army said its troops have neutralized 10 terrorists and arrested the bandit kingpin in clearance operations. We have details of that and more after this break.
Inakwazia kama ya neno wamono Okungbali boy katienti bulu onyo mebezi na nigo ogungbali boy gadizenti jebo iluzia wolo na wanne mebe onyo mebezi na nigo Ogazi amaka wajina gombo Ogazi amaka wajina Osilio nyama Mkengenyi tune Ekeke na logika isabelo Aji ashangata namu Sakebeno Aji asalebe Beno Hasadebe na yamu Obia muze no chini mo sedebe mo namo Waneme bene
Pararam pra reparar, estão ouvindo esse som, pulsando seco no ar, merece nossa atenção. Preparem bem os sensores para poder captar. Parem usinas, motores.
Welcome back, and it's good to know that you are still with us on NEWSLIVE here on Viewer Television. Now, before we move forward, here's a recap of our top stories. Federal government inaugurates steering committee on youth policy. Also, the Nigerian Civil Authority suspends Martini airline permit. Thus, when commuter visits King Charles in hospital. Switching gears, the Nigerian Civil Authority has suspended the permit of Martini Airline Services Limited pending completion of investigation into the runway. Excursion involving a Challenger CL-601 aircraft operated by the firm. This is contained in a statement by Michael Akimugu, Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection NCAA. Recall that a private jet operated by the airline which had departed Abuja with 15 persons on board overshot the runway while landing at Ibadan Airport on Friday. Achimugu said the suspension will continue until clarifications were made that the conditions of the permit for non-commercial flights had been adhered to. He assured commitment to safety of air travelers in line with best global practices, adding that authority had begun a safety and economic audit of all private jet operations in Nigeria. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau said it had commenced investigation into the serious incident. The Nigerian Army said its troops have neutralized 10 terrorists and arrested a bandit kingpin in clearance operations at bandit enclaves in the northwest region. The troops also apprehended arms smugglers and recovered ammunition during the raids in Zamfara, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Katsina states. Captain Yagata Ibrahim, the information officer, Joint Task Force Operation Hadarin Daji, disclosed this in a statement in Gusau. Ibrahim said the troops recorded tremendous successes in coordinated dry season clearance operations in the affected states. The spokesman said the troops also responded to intelligence report on sighting terrorist movement along Sheme Dandume Road in Katsina State and prominently engaged the terrorists, killed one, and forced them to flee. In a recent development, the Northern Consensus Movement, in conjunction with various Fulani groups, have conveyed their dissatisfaction and dismay regarding the reported military killing of several Fulani youths in the Fulani community situated near the Lakduga Grazing Reserve in the Kacho local government area of Kaduna State. Now, addressing a press conference in Kaduna, the president of the movement, Awal Abdullahi, called on the Chief of Defense Staff, General Musa Gwabin, to set up a committee that will investigate the act and prosecute accordingly.
As the Chief of Defense Staff, I don't want to believe that he's aware of this. I also want to believe that after the happenings, he has set up a machinery of investigation to find out who are the people that are carrying out this act. And I do not want to believe, by all means, that General Sidi Musa is aware of these happenings or he is involved in these happenings as being alleged by some people.
As to the number of people that have been killed, that also, those that we have already identified, their corpses are about 17 in total. There are those that are still at large. They are still presumably with the military, and we hope that they will be released very soon. What we realize is that when these killings are done, the corpses are dumped close to villages of our neighbors, probably with the aim of instigating reaction from our people. And that's why he said he's appealing to our people, and we are also appealing to them that they should. We know who our killers are. If you find the corpse of your brother close to a village, please don't attack that village. It is done deliberately to create tension.
Bauchi retired High Court Judge Justice Habib Bushal has been appointed as the member of Commonwealth Secretariat Arbitral Tribunal to represent Africa. The appointment, which was facilitated by Foreign Affairs Minister Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tukar, came in a letter through the Director General of Tugar Foundation. Now, Bauchi State correspondent Awal Hassan completes the story.
The Commonwealth Secretariat Arbitral Tribunal is composed of 8 members, all of whom are nationals of different Commonwealth member states. Nigeria, being member of the Commonwealth, has today become part of the Arbitral Tribunal, as an indigenous of Bauchi State retired Justice Habib Idris Shell is not just representing Nigeria at the Commonwealth Secretariat, but the entire African continent.
I was on a trip to my farm one day when I was called back and asked to submit my CV. So I submitted it just about some weeks ago. And to my shock, just some days back, I saw an appointment letter that imposed my mind that indeed we have God-fearing leaders, we have leaders who are just, who can do something without thinking of where you come from.
Retired Justice Habib Idris Shell was nominated by Foreign Affairs Minister Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tugar, and the appointment letter was presented to him during a reception organized by Tugar Foundation in Bauchi State. The retired justice, however, expressed gratitude to the foreign minister for the honor.
I will forever remain grateful to His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tugar, who facilitated this appointment. I have never met the minister in my life. I have never met his DG. I was only asked to submit my CV, and I was told I was not alone. But on perusal of my documents, they saw that I was a fit and proper person, and naturally it comes to me.
The Director General of the Foundation, while presenting the appointment letter to the retired High Court judge, described him as the most competent person for that position.
We selected somebody that is competent, retired Justice Habib Idris Shell. Anybody know this man is a very good in justice and everything. So that's why we gather here, we give him the appointment letter, and so forth. As you see it by yourself.
He, however, advised him to be careful and continue to demonstrate his honesty at the international stage. Awal Hassan, Viewer TV News, Bauchi.
Still in Bauchi, now the state governor, Bala Mohammed, has commended the royal fathers of the state for maintaining impartial positions in the political affairs of the state. The governor says he has a clear understanding of the sterling leadership of the traditional leaders, hence pledges that his administration will not dilute their impartiality by making them too involved in politics. Now, Bala made the remarks when the 6 first-class emirs of the state paid him a congratulatory visit over his victory at the Supreme Court judgment. Now, Bauchi correspondent Awal Hassan was there and now tells us more.
The 6 first-class emirs of Bauchi, Das, Jama'ari, Katagum, Misau, and Ningi, were led by His Royal Highness Emir of Bauchi, Alhaji Dr. Wanu Suleiman Adamu, for a congratulatory visit to Governor Bala Muhammad following his victory at the Supreme Court.
Today is a brand new day. It's a brand new moment. It's a moment to appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this victory at the Supreme Court now. It is Allah that make it possible. It's been done and continues to be, inshallah. So we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with you, to guide you, and to bless you with wisdom for the greater impact to the journey ahead.
Governor Bala Muhammad, while reacting to the visit, commended the emirs for their impartial role in politics, where they carry every politician in the state as their son, regardless of party differences.
You have always been with us from the time we started, and you have always maintained an impartial position as royal fathers of the state. We had a clear understanding that we will not dilute your impartiality by making you to involve in politics, and most of you have really played to the same expectations, which have made you to stand up and stand out as the most impartial royal highnesses in northern Nigeria.
After the recent Supreme Court judgment that affirms his second term in office, the governor says now his priority is to continue to see the development of Bauchi, which has always been his dream.
Our position is that Bauchi is greater than everyone, including us. And we assure you we will try to make Bauchi and all its institutions better than where we found it. The traditional institution is one area where I come from. I am associated with you in one way or the other. And I'm not doing it to be praised or to get any glory, other than to leave legacy and landmark for my children and my party and our supporters.
The governor further pledges to make sure that he does not bring his personal interest to bear on whatever his administration is doing. He therefore sought the continued support and cooperation of the traditional institutions and the general public to be able to achieve the desired objectives. Awal Hassan, Viewer TV News, Bauchi.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, says half of displaced children are still out of school, and less than 40% of schools in the affected states have teachers with minimum levels of qualification. The NGO disclosed during its spelling bee and panel discussion on education and climate change effects on education to commemorate the 2024 International Day of Education in Maiduguri. Now, UNICEF urged Northeast states of Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe states to increase funding for education, adding that education for children as a right has not translated to a right to learn for them. The National Assembly has pledged to make necessary amendments to the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (NETI) Act. The Chairman, Senate, and House of Representatives Committee on Upstream, Downstream, and Midstream of the National Assembly made the pledge in Abuja while meeting the global leadership of Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (80). Speaking on behalf of the Federal Legislature, Chairman, Senate, and House Committee on Upstream says the 10th National Assembly will use its power to solve the challenges confronting the industry.
Especially the 10th Assembly, we are committed in achieving it. We must get the job done. Nigeria must return back to where we used to be In the next few days, we'll be celebrating 20 years. And for us here, we see it as an achievement. We will sit back, even when you've gone, to deliberate on the submissions we are going to get and look at our laws vis-a-vis where amendments are needed or where new laws are to be. We will.
As a joint committee, our agenda is targeted at introducing key amendments to the Petroleum Industry Act so as to ensure stronger provisions for clean energy transition. We also focus on reviewing the NETI Act to grant NETI statutory powers to implement the findings of their investigation and possibly execute the recommendations of their report. We are also considering granting NETI powers to prosecute those found to be in breach of extant laws, strengthening the governance structure of NETI, placing more emphasis on crucial disclosure requirements of the EITI, especially as it relates to contract transparency and beneficial ownership.
Earlier, Deputy Executive Director of AT, Badi Balde, who led the team, says the purpose of NETI is to ensure Nigerians benefit from our natural resources. Now, Balde, while commending Nigeria for the implementation of AT Act, called for the need to review the NETI Act. On his part, Executive Secretary NETI acknowledged that NETI has recorded a giant stride in achieving slots in the extractive sector of the country.
Senior members of the executive branch have made the commitment to attend to this issue promptly with due care to make sure that work is done in an open and transparent manner, that to avoid undue political interference in that process, but rather to make sure that members appointed to such an important body have the capacity, the technical expertise to undertake such an important work. So we look forward to that work, and we believe this august body has a role to play in monitoring that.
We have already developed a national response comprehensive action plan, which we have shared with all the agencies concerned. And we're going to share them also with the relevant committees to look at, to help your tracking, monitoring, and legislative oversight. We have tied them to timelines, and this will be shared with you. On behalf of the delegation and the international chair, Right Honorable Helen Clark, the reconstitution of 90 NSWG, which is the board, was of primary importance to the international body.
The native boss, while expressing commendation for National Assembly's report, says the visit by AT has been very expository for them. Up next, we'll be looking at international news. Do stay tuned. And away from Nigeria, Queen Camilla has visited King Charles in hospital the day after he underwent treatment for an enlarged prostate. The king went into hospital on Friday morning and is said to be doing well after the procedure. It is not known how long the king will stay there, but reports suggest he could remain over the weekend. Ahead of the procedure, he visited the Princess of Wales, who had abdominal surgery last week. Catherine's own treatment was successful, Kensington Palace said at the time, but she is not expected to resume royal duties for months. Both are now currently staying at the London Clinic Private Hospital near Regent Park. An enlarged prostate is a benign problem which is non-cancerous and common in older men according to the NHS, with about 1 in 3 men over the age of 50 having some symptoms. The UN, EU, and anti-death penalty activists have condemned the first execution of a prisoner using nitrogen gas. Kenneth Eugene Smith was put to death at a state prison in Altmore, Alabama. A journalist who witnessed the execution told newsmen that Smith crashed violently on the gurney. Smith was convicted in 1989 of murdering a preacher's wife, Elizabeth Sennett, in a killing for hire. The execution process began at 1953 local time, and Smith was pronounced dead about half of an hour later. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said he has serious concerns these novel and untested method of suffocation by nitrogen gas may amount to torture or cruel, inhumane to degrading treatment.
Tested method of suffocation by nitrogen gas may amount to torture, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. We've been following the reports, and there are reports that it may have taken up to 25 minutes. It's unclear exactly, and he was writhing and clearly suffering. Listen, what we said is that rather than looking for novel, untested methods to execute people, let's just bring an end to the death penalty. This is an anachronism that doesn't belong in the 21st century. What we are concerned about and why we're being so vocal on this is that we are worried that this will now be adopted as an accepted method of execution. We've already seen some other US states that have approved its use, and we would urge them not to use nitrogen gas to execute.
Now, U.S. President Joe Biden heads to South Carolina to celebrate on elevating the state and its large base of black voters to kick off the Democratic Party's calendar of contests to nominate its candidate for the November elections. And Biden, who currently looks likely to be set for a rematch of the 2020 elections contest with Donald Trump, will also make the case that the Republican former president is a threat to communities of color. The president is set to headline the South Carolina Democratic Party's dinner to mark the party's first official primary next month. He will explain why he ousted the less diverse states of Iowa and New Hampshire from the top of the party's nominating calendar and offer up an early glimpse of how he plans to attack Trump on his record with black Americans, a campaign official said. The Democratic primary in South Carolina is on February 3rd, and Biden is expected to win handily as he canvasses an easy path to the party's nomination. Britain and Finland have joined other countries in portion funding to a UN agency that provides humanitarian aid to Palestinians following allegations of involvement by some of its employees in the October 7th attack on Israel. Following the US, Italy, Australia, and Canada, the UK and Finland have also decided to suspend funding to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees of UNRWA after claims that some of its members were involved in Hamas' attack on Israel. After the Israeli allegations, the agency said it had terminated contracts with several of its staff over their alleged involvement in the October 7th attack on Israel. Citing the UK Foreign Office, local media reported that Britain is temporarily pausing any future funding of UNRWA. A Finnish Minister of Foreign Trade and Development, Ville Tavio, said that Finland's payment to the agency will be suspended due to the allegations. And that's all on NEWSLIVE, but before let's take a look at our top stories for the evening. Steering Committee on Youth Policy. And also the Nigerian Civil Authority suspends Martini Airline Pilot. Plus, Queen Camilla visits King Charles in hospital. Many thanks for watching. My name is Philip Sliven. Do enjoy the rest of our programs and have a great evening.